Hello and welcome to MINYIP, your fantasy sports community. My name is Blake, coach of Youngys, Yaks, and I'm joined by Clinton.
Coach of Dash's Dogs.
Good to have you here, Clinton. We're trialing a new format tonight with different software programs, so we'll see how it goes. But we're talking AFL Fantasy Round 3 preview show, so very excited. AFL Fantasy is going very well for me so far and you as well. So, look forward to talking AFL Fantasy with you, Clinton.
I'm looking forward to it too, Blake. We're both off to a good start, and we even scored exactly the same on the weekend, despite having very different teams. So, no, going well.
No, absolutely. If you are watching us for the first time, make sure you check out our Patreon page. So the link's on your show notes, whether you're listening to us on podcast or on your screen there for the YouTube channel. So check out our Patreon page, and you can also hit us up on our Twitter, Instagram, or even our TikTok as well, Clinton. One of your favorites, TikTok.
Have you still been posting on TikTok, have you?
Might have posted our round one teams, I think, but just occasional posting on TikTok.
Okay. I've been missing it. I've been checking TikTok every day actually, and
just waiting by the phone. So check us out on socials and we engage as well in our community. So in the on there. Let's get into the show, Clinton. So, like you just mentioned, we scored exactly the same, 2-1-8-5. So very happy with that. I moved up the rankings to be 2,957. So probably one of my best starts I've had in AFL fantasy, I'd say, after round 2. But as we both know, it can go either way from here. We can it could quite quickly drop off. So, like you said, Clinton, we scored exactly the same. How did you think your round 2 went?
Yeah, reasonably happy. I'm looking forward to recapping the trades because I don't think I actually traded well, but yeah, scored 2-1-8-5. My rankings now 6-9-9-1. Feel as I've got all the relevant rookies, and now it's all about trading smartly and just catching all those price rises of probably the mid prices. I'm probably missing a couple of them. So yeah, looking forward to delving into those names and seeing which way I could. Everyone else, for that matter, not just worried about my team, but yeah, looking forward to hopefully making some smart trades.
Yeah, that's what we're here for, Clinton. It's helping our community. So we'd like it if you commented wherever you see the show on Twitter or YouTube. If you comment what trades you're doing for the upcoming rounds or what your thoughts are on our trades, even. What trades did you do going into round 2 there, Clinton?
I got rid of McInerney from the Swans, who was obviously injured. I brought in Sin from Port Adelaide. I was tossing up between him and Skinner. I paid up a little bit more for Sin. He didn't score overly well. He ended up scoring just the 36. So I'm hopeful that he can stay in the Port Adelaide team. I'm not sure if he will, but if he doesn't, I'll potentially trade him straight away. But he scored 36. My other trade, I traded out Newcombe, and I went for a risky pick. I got in McDonald. So he's obviously just a midfielder at the moment. He scored well in round 1. He was up against West Coast. I thought he was going to have a big day, and he didn't. He only scored 66. So I'm hoping he can rebound, and I still think he could be one of my crafty moves that turns out to be a good selection. And because after 4 more rounds, he'll swing to my defense. I'm just hopeful that move doesn't backfire, because I did pay what did I pay for him? I'm not sure. Up towards 500k, high 500k for him. And yeah, he's gone up in price since, but he only scored 66. So those are my 2 moves. And on face value right now, they've both failed, but maybe in a month's time, that may not be the case.
Yeah, well, you had to get rid of McInerney for Sydney. He's going to be out for a while, I think. So it was a forced trade there. Yeah, but we'll see how it pays off for you in the long run. My trades, I traded out from my round 1 team. I traded out Jordan Ridley, who scored 59 in round 1, and then backed it up with a 72. I traded him out for George Hewitt after all my talk about not having George Hewitt round 1. I brought him in, who scored 85. So 13-point differential turnaround there. And my other trade that I did, it's tough to look back against it now. I really tried to attack I had to trade out Dusty. That was my other forced trade after he was out for round 2. And I brought in Josh Dunkley for Western Bulldogs. He was my vice captain. So I vice captained him, and once he scored 112, I locked him in as my captain. So I was quite happy with that turnaround, even though one of my other captain options in Petracca or Neil would have scored higher. I was still happy to lock in that 112. Who did you captain in round 2, Clint?
I had the VC on McRae. He only scored 103, so I was happy to bypass that. And my boy, Took, stepped up, 147 he scored. So he may be my permanent captain for a while. Obviously, I have the luxury of having a VC look this week at the likes of McRae again, but gee, my boy Took, I'm very happy I started with him, and I think he's just outstanding captaincy option going forward.
Yep, let's go into hits and misses, Clinton. One of your favourite segments. So your 3 hits and misses for round 2.
I can't wait to get this segment. This is my favourite stuff. Apparently, what would you like me to start with?
Give me your 3 hits.
My 3 hits. Well, I already mentioned him. Toot captain, 147. I've got to give my next hit to. I'm not sure if you have. Did you say you have Lockie Neal?
I do have Lockie Neal in fantasy.
Yeah, Lockie Neal. Yep, 145. There's Lockie Neal's only owned by 41% in AFL Fantasy, so I thought that would be higher. So
it might have gone up since round 2.
Yeah, potentially. My third biggest hit, and I was a bit annoyed after his round 1 performance, but I've got to give a shout out to Rioli. Daniel Rioli scored me 101 points.
Gee,
so
I didn't know that.
He was. I thought he was potentially a failed pick after round 1, and I was tempted to trade him, but I thought I'd back him in at his price. If it had been $100,000 more expensive, I probably would have traded him. But because it was so cheap, I stood by him for 1 more week, and it's paid off. 101 he scored.
That's it, Clinton. We hold on to our premiums on this show.
Dan Rioli premium, is he?
He might be for you.
Is that
right? We back our boys in on this show. For me, my 3 hits, there's plenty to choose from here. It was quite a successful round. Yeah, I was quite happy with it. Christian Petracca, people were scrambling to get him into their side. He scored 136. So happy to have him. Lockie Neal, as you mentioned. And another person who had a poor round 1 but bounced back for me was Jack Crisp. So he scored 126 for me.
Crispy. Well said, Blake. Very good. Well done. You have time to get negative.
A few honourable mentions.
Oh, here he is.
Jaden Short, 131. Zach Merritt, 111. Zach Butters, 137. Will Brodie, 109.
Humble brag. Yeah. Humble brag time. All right.
A few honourable mentions there.
Okay. We may have to just really
respect to my boys.
Very strict next week that we're only having 3 for you. Okay, negative time. My first miss. Matty Rowell scored 46. Obviously disappointing. with AFL Fantasy, I'm not sure if that means he's a potential trade-out option. I'm not sure. He's, I think he's still cheap enough that he should keep. If it, once again, similar to Rowell last week, if he was maybe 100, 150,000 dollars more expensive, I think I'd trade him. But because he's still only right now $5.29, I think I have to keep him for another week. But yeah, we'll get to our trades later. My next miss, I have to give it to Luke McDonald. I mean, I brought him in, and very unique option, and I think he's got good potential. It's just disappointing that I didn't see any of the game. I thought Kangaroos would dominate, and I thought he would get a lot of the ball. So for him to score 66, disappointing. I'm hoping he rebounds and repays the faith that I had in him to pick him in. My third selection, and this one's gone under the radar a little bit because everyone's frustrated with Max Gawn. But I'm sort of hearing a lot of that, and I'm standing by Max. I'm confident he'll score well versus Bombers this week. So instead of giving him the -3 or the copying the traders, instead of him giving him the big miss, Brodie Grundy only scored 82. And I think that is gone under the radar that he only scored 3 more points than Gawn, and yet everyone's piling into Max Gawn. Brodie Grundy only scored 82. So that's a disappointing score for what everyone paid for him. So instead of giving it to Max, I thought I'd give it to Brodie Grundy.
Jeez, a bit stiff there, Brody, your old teammate. You'll be very disappointed to hear you giving him the -3 there. For mine, I've got to have Rowell as well.
-1.
Yeah, Rowell, that's very disappointing after what he did in round one. Rowan Marshall, big St Kilda ruckman, only scored 64. So the ruckmen aren't going too well for us at the moment. But 64 is definitely worse than 82. So he probably deserves a bit of a whack there. And my other one that I had, which was probably expected that he would score low, was Jack Hayes to St Kilda again. So there's 2 St Kilda ruckmen
ruthless on
my whacks.
Second game, I scored 61. And he's
not good enough.
Oh my goodness, he's rookie priced. He scored 61.
Yeah.
Oh,
from my end, I should have structured it better and had Nash on the field for him for West Coast. That cost me about 31 points. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how my team's going. So even the rookies are copping a whack.
Clearly.
Yeah.
What's next, Blake?
Next, we'll just talk through some players, Clinton, and you touched on it already, but just some players for the fantasy format of what you're planning to do with them, and your opinions of whether we hold or trade them. With players going down with injuries, there'll be forced trades. For example, I've got Zach Merritt, who's got a syndesmosis, Clinton, 6 to 8 weeks, they're saying, so he'll be out for a while. But players that aren't injured, but are scoring poorly, what do we do with these players, Clinton? In the fantasy format where they're dropping and going up in price every week, are you more likely to trade out these premiums so that they're not going down by too much?
It's a very good question. I've got 2 main guys I want to mention in this category. First one's Max Gawn, obviously going down in price. For me, he's playing Essendon this week, and I think that it'd be, and funny is it, Blake? I think he'd somewhat know that he's had a poor start to the year. Playing Essendon Friday night, I'm expecting a big game, and a lot of people are trading him out because he's going down in price. But I think he's got a big score in him this week. And then the other factor is from what I'm saying, is a lot of people are trading out Max Gawn to bring in Tim English. who, in terms of the money value, I'd understand it if English was a lot cheaper, but as it stands, there's not I don't think a huge amount of price gain from that move. And then there's the other situations. I haven't checked the teams, but Steph Martin isn't picked for this week, is he? So he's not playing this week. So
He's
that's
out with COVID, I believe.
is that Steph?
Yeah, Steph's out, and the other Jordan Sweet's the emergency. I believe Steph's out for COVID reasons.
Okay. Well, that's my change. A lot of people, I think it's still a matter of time when Steph Martin's fit and healthy that he comes into the team. So, long story short, I'm holding Gawn. The next play is Lockie Whitfield. And despite him scoring, I think it was 88, he hasn't been great form the first 2 weeks. He's going down in money. He's a bit different to Max, I think, in fantasy. Like he's still, as I said, he scored 88, but I think there's alarm bells with how he's been playing. And I think I've got more confidence in Max Gawn playing well this week than Lockie Whitfield. And with Lockie Whitfield's money, that really opens up the doors for trades for me. So, yeah, I think purely because of the just eye test on Whitfield compared to Gawn. Yeah, Max hasn't played well, but I've got confidence he'll bounce back this week. I'm not as confident with Whitfield, so I'm leaning towards trading Whitfield despite him scoring pretty well on the weekend. So that's my thoughts, Blake.
Interesting statement. You're talking about eye test on Whitfield. You didn't watch the GWS game, did you?
No, I saw the second half. I saw the second half. So like
he looked better in the second half than what he did in the first.
Well, there you go, and that's saying something because I didn't see the first half. So
yeah,
don't try and pick holes in my story, Blake. But he, from what I saw, there's alarm bells, and I'm sticking by it.
Yeah, for me, I'll have to hold Whitfield due to my forced trades. But if I had nothing else to do, he'd probably be on my first to go. With fantasy this year, I really want to attack my trades and trade out these underperforming players if I can. But my first priority is to have these rookies that are on the bubble. So that the players that are either playing their first game or they're returning from COVID like Nick Martin, I want to really have these cash generating players. I don't want to be just side swapping my premiums to start the season. So that's for me. That's my first priority. If you had the luxury, Clinton, would you be trying to get in those side swap the premiums or get the rookies if you didn't have them?
Rookies, as you said, Blake, it's great advice. That's first priority. Ideally, also getting 30 green dots. So you don't want to have too many players not playing on the bench. So we'll get to our trades later, but my trades will depend on selection. Obviously, it does every single week. And potentially, if I have a couple of players that don't come back into the team, or for example, with Sin, if he doesn't get picked, that's my first priority. If Sin plays, if Dixon comes back into the team, I think that gives me a bit more what's leverage to make sure I can then attack those other trades. So I think, great advice, Blake. And yeah, there's lots of those names we've mentioned you need to have, and Nick Martin's obviously right up there. You can mention all those rookies that we all know about. That's your first priority. Make sure you have all of them.
If Dixon doesn't come back this week, would you be trading Dixon first if you could afford to swap him out, or Whitfield?
It's a good question, but probably Dixon. I think I don't have huge confidence that Whitfield will go large, but if he can get another 90, I'd rather still have that than having no cash generation from Dixon and then getting stuck on my bench with a donut. So, yeah, that's the way I'm looking at it.
Out of the that was a good discussion there, Clinton. Out of the players that are performing very well at the moment, who's the highest priority for you at the moment? Who's the one who's really standing out as a player that you need to get in your side if you haven't got them already, or you think suggest to our community that they should be getting in as number one priority as a high scoring player?
I've got a list of guys who have very low break evens, which I'm very much eyeing off. But then, as in terms of your question, there's a few premiums or up towards that mark that I'm eyeing off, and they include Brayshaw for obvious reasons, Petracca, Cripps I don't have, and the other one is Green for GWS, and I think his role will continue to stay in the midfield and at his price. I think there's a fair bit of confidence that he's playing well, and yeah, but the main two, if I was tossing up the names I just mentioned, Petrarca is probably number one. I think the Brayshaw tag will be coming very soon, maybe as soon as this week. Whereas Petrarca, I see, is completely unstoppable. And Cripps borderline is very similar, but the question is how long he can sustain this form. So Petrarca would be top of my list, then probably Cripps right now, then potentially Brayshaw.
One thing I'm tackling at the moment, Clinton, is whether I upgrade to that slightly more expensive player like your Brayshaw or Petrarca, or going a player a bit lower in value but scoring pretty well at the moment, like Cripps or Green. So they're averaging 117, whereas Petrarca's 139 and Brayshaw's 150 after the first two rounds, but they're way more expensive. How do you find that balance of trying to get those extra points or trying to find the value early in season?
I think if you're paying up for the likes of Brayshaw and Petrarca, you need to make sure you're super confident that they can score high all season long. And those potential tag games don't occur. Whereas someone like Cripps, he could potentially, if he continues his form for a month, he's a better option. So, and then you can always then potentially sideways him for anyone else. Whereas if you're paying up that much for a premium, you need to be super confident they can sustain that all season long. So I have my element of doubt about Brayshaw that the tags are coming and he won't be scoring. Clearly, not as much as what he has in the first 2 weeks, but yeah, I just have that small doubt about the likes of Brayshaw.
Yeah, probably just because he's their main man at the moment, with Fife being out for at least another month after having surgery again. Whereas Petrarca, even if he is getting tagged, he could still break through it. But they've also got Oliver there, who's racking up the disposals each and every game as well, which I believe Rowell went to Oliver over the weekend. Is that right?
Yeah, sat on him. I think he mixed between. I'm not sure. Once again, I was probably watching the other game more closely. I had both games on, but yeah, whether it was more Oliver or Petrarca, he was definitely more defensive minded. Yeah.
Yeah, and for Cripps as well, the good thing about fantasy in comparison to Supercoach is you get the two trades every week. So if they have a slight risk with injury, like Cripps has been over the previous seasons, if he does pick up that injury, you should have the two trades there to use if that does occur. So you could take a risk in fantasy more so than what you can do in Supercoach, I think.
Yeah. So, in terms of the break evens, I've got a list of guys that I'm looking at who aren't necessarily obviously premium options, but there's a few names I'd like to discuss with you, Blake.
Yep.
Bowey's the first one. He scored really well on the weekend. His break even is 1. He's 420k defender, and the big question for me is there's two different ways you can look at it, and his big score from the weekend, you might say is just a bit of a one-off, and he played his. I think Goodwin came out and said he played the same role as he did in round one. It's just one of those games. Or you could look at it that he relished the opportunity to get involved more with Salem out, and now that he's got that confidence and belief, he could sustain that form. So there's two different ways you could look at it, and I think he's definitely. You want to be sure that he's going to continue this, I guess, level of confidence, really, and I've got faith in it. So, yeah, I'm hearing people sort of mixed opinions about it, but I'm pretty sure that with his what's he playing? His 10th or 11th game of AFL footy, and he's only going to get more
not many.
confidence from it. So I think he's a good option. So that's Bowey. Naish, you mentioned he's got a break even of 2. The question is how long will he stay in the West Coast team? McDonald from the Hawks, he's got a break even of 4. Charlie Curno's got a break even of 13. So poor round 1, really good round 2. How consistent or his price is only $3.76. So he played really well last week. If he can hold this form for a while, I think he's a solid option. Another interesting one is Lloyd Meek. Depending on Sean Darcy, if he's potentially out for a while, I'm not sure if that news has come out, but he's got a break even of 24. He's only 384k. So there's Meek and there's also Bruce, who's likely to come back this week. He's 367k. All will depend if he's one out or not. That's the big question with the GWS Rucks. One more name for you before I'll let you speak. Jack Sinclair at the Saints. Bit of a role change compared to previous seasons. Playing a bit more midfield. He scored well the first 2 weeks. His break even's only 68. Price at 710. I think he's a potentially good option as someone a bit unique. What do you think of all those names, Blake?
Yeah, definitely some interesting names there, Clinton. For me, it depends on how your team's structured up and what areas you need improving in. For my defenders, I don't really have the spot for Bowey at the moment. They're sort of awkward prices to go up to. If you're looking at Bowey's 420k, you're either dropping down from a sort of a mid-pricer that's failed or even a
Whitfield.
fallen. No chance of trading Whitfield to Bowey.
Speak for yourself.
I am speaking for myself, and there's no chance of me going Whitfield to Bowey. You're trading down from a fallen premium or a mid-pricer who's failed, or you're trying to go up from a rookie price. And for me, I don't want to be trading out any of those, the likes of Whitfield at the moment. That's just how my team's structured. But yeah, it really depends on if you can find the cash or if you want to trade out your premiums, which I don't really want to do. So Bowey's not really an option for me at the moment with my other trades. Curnow, definitely a good option again, but it's still around that awkward price. I'd have to be trading out someone like, I'd have to be side swapping someone like probably
your team's perfect.
Or
your team's perfect. Like you can't trade him out.
I'd have to be trading.
Can you make 2 trades this week? You got the perfect team by the sounds of things.
Yeah. If I didn't have merit, I probably would be trading out Whitfield.
There you go.
But for me, I'm probably lacking a midfielder. So I was very, very fortunate that Ward had a very good round 2 game, and I was able to loop him onto the field using my West Coast looping option, who was out for COVID reasons. So I'm probably just lacking that extra midfielder. Was any of those midfield names that you mentioned there, Clinton? I don't think so. I think they're all forwards and backs. And
Naish, McDonald.
And Naish I already have, on the bench.
McDonald's another one. Yeah, so currently in my bench, I have Ward and Mead. Obviously, Mead was the sub. I think my entire trades this week will be dependent on the Port Adelaide's team. So that's just a glimpse into what I'm doing, but we'll get to that later. But yeah,
Traditionally, the subs don't play the next week, do they? Depending on how much game time they play, but usually the subs don't play the next week.
why do you say that?
I just because I don't think they do.
No, well, it
I see it
depends what
quite often
happens.
that the
I mean,
subs
Port
are out.
Adelaide got touched up, and I think there could be large ramifications from that. Who knows what they'll do? They could drop 5 players. Yeah, a lot could change. So I wouldn't be assuming that Mead will be out. There's every chance that they make a big statement with their selection, and yeah, who knows? But yeah,
Just trying to see how much game time he played. He only got the 6 disposals and
it was about
played 31.
quarter
Played
and a half
31
maybe.
minutes. Yeah, not too bad. I'm sure there'd be players that perform worse across the full game for Port Adelaide after getting touched up by your Hawks.
What about? I know I spoke for length about Max Gawn. What about your opinion about Max Gawn?
If I
If
don't
you if
like the
you
trade. If I had him, I wouldn't be trading him personally. I
okay,
don't. Yeah, I think the rucks are struggling at the moment in term. Like you said before, Grundy only scored 3 more points than him in round 2, and I think just Jackson was having a standout game, so they used him more around the middle of the ground. I think so. There'll be games where that happens, but I think the number one ruck still Max Gawn is arguably still the best ruckman in the league. It's just they've got the likes of Jackson coming through, so they used him more when he was in form. He very well could score 120 against Essendon this week,
yeah.
and I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of that. If I traded out Gawn, Whitfield, and they come out and score 120, I'd be regretting it, no matter who I traded them for.
I think a lot of them, as I said, from what I'm seeing, is training out Max to oh mate, speaking no English. So um, that's that's not what I want to do. No, so I'd rather keep Max. That's me personally. Everyone's got their own
Yeah,
opinions.
my concern is my other ruck who scored what he scored 68 on the weekend.
Yeah,
Rom, he if he puts in another performance like that, he might be on the chopping block, Ryan Marshall. So
yep.
yes, like I said, I want to attack my trades this year in fantasy who are underperforming, and Marshall's similar price to Whitfield, and he scored 22 points less than him.
Matt Rowell. What about Matt Rowell for you?
Have you got a break even there for me, Clinton?
Of Rowell?
Yeah.
No, but I got
He,
my estimate is I think it's around. My guess is about 60 something. So I think he's still. That's my guess. But I've got because he's good round 1 score. Um, I still think he's got a lot of money to make, so that's why I'm leaning towards holding him. But it all depends, as I said, on what happens with Port Adelaide boys.
yeah, let's get into our trades for what we plan to do for round 3, Clinton. We've sort of touched around it a bit, but just what are you planning on doing for this? Keep it as simple as possible.
I'll try. So I've got 222k in the bank. That's the first thing, which is a good platform. As I said, all depends on Sin for Port Adelaide. If he is not named, I'm very likely to go from him with the money I have in the bank all the way to Josh Bowey. So Sin to Bowey would be that move if Sin doesn't get named. If he does get named, that's when I start getting a bit more potentially risky with my options. And I'm every chance, if Sin doesn't get named, I might trade Whitfield all the way down to Bowey, which is, I know what you laughed at before, but that's looking at my options in terms of my whole defensive group. And yeah, I think Whitfield's the one who I think I'll get back later. So whilst he's going down in price a bit, to jump on Bowey, and then that would allow me, if I wanted to do that, I could just play it risky. I know Rowell's got more money to make, but I could go from Rowell all the way up to Petracca or whoever I want, pretty much. So it's I'm debating a lot there, but if Sin gets named, I'm likely to go from Whitfield to Bowey and then maybe Rowell all the way up to Petracca, which on face value is good moves, but in a month's time, maybe not so smart. As I said, Josh Sin, but the next one is Hugh Dixon from West Coast. If he doesn't get named, I can do a bit of switcheroo with Hayes and then, try and make sure I get green dots everywhere. So we'll see how that unfolds, but that's the way I'm leaning towards.
So I take it you have all the prime rookies.
I've got the prime rookies. As I said before, I'm eyeing off Bowey. I don't have McDonald or Curnow. They're probably the main couple ones that I could get in if I'm eyeing off more cheaper options.
Nick Martin.
No, I've got Martin, I've got Hayes, I've got
Martin
Durden,
already.
Ward, Dick Koning. So, yeah, on field, I've got Cherry, Rochelle, Brody, Dacos, Juan Francis. So I'm pretty well set up rookie wise. Yeah.
Have you considered if Hayes gets dropped?
Even if he gets dropped, which I don't think he will, let's make that clear. I'd keep him because the way the St Kilda Rucks are going, if Marshall doesn't play well, Ryder could come back if he does replace Hayes. He could come back and hurt himself. So, like, I don't want to take that risk of getting out Hayes and then 1 or 2 weeks later, it's like he's a must-have again. So, I won't be trading him now.
For me, I don't have Nick Martin, so my trades that I need to do would be to bring him in. I know it'll be tough to find someone to drop, but I'll just have to do it, Clinton. He's going to be going up in price by a fair bit. It potentially might be for Tyson Stengel, who scored 300, who's at 362k, who only scored 21 points in round 2. So he was the beneficiary of destroying Essendon in round 1 and then scored poorly in round 2. So
and potentially
for the cash, I have to go Stengel to Nick Martin.
Oh, I thought you said you'd bring Stengel in.
No. I think I'll have to go Stengel to Nick Martin because I've got no cash in the bank. I've only got 4k. Ideally, I would have traded Baldwin to Martin. Or I could do... So that's trade 1, Stengel to Martin, and then I can go Merritt up to Brayshaw because I already have Petracca. Or the other alternative is going Merritt down to Cripps or Tom Green, whichever. They're both around the same price. So most likely Cripps, and then going Baldwin up to Nick Martin.
Yeah, I'd be trying to get rid of Baldwin if I was you. You want to make sure you're getting those rookies playing. So, despite me,
only non-playing rookies are Baldwin and Dixon.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you want them playing. Stengel didn't score well on the weekend. Who knows if that means he'll stay in the team or not? I'm not sure, but if he gets dropped, maybe he's the one to drop. But as you mentioned earlier, it's all about getting the right rookies and making sure you're generating money, and they can't generate money if they're not playing, Blake.
That's very true, Clinton. Yeah, if Hayes does get dropped in this week, I'll be holding him for at least 1 or 2 more weeks as well on my bench for fantasy. I've got to trade out Merritt for that 6 to 8 week injury, but at least he's still scored pretty well after the first 2 rounds, so I've got plenty of cash to play with there. He's priced at 935k, so I can just about afford just about anyone besides the likes of Took.
Just on Martin, with the way Essendon, the injuries, etc., I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if he comes back in and scores really well as well. Like, he may get some more midfield time even, and the way he played round 1, he's a starting option. So, yeah, definitely get him in, Blake.
Yeah, he'll be my highest priority if he's named. Your captains for round 3, Clinton?
Yeah, at this stage, I'll be VC McRae into Miller. Yeah, if Dixon and Sin remain the team, that may take away my looping options anyway. So we'll see how the teams unfold. But at this stage, it's McRae into Miller. If it so happens that I go ahead with those trades and I decide to get in Petracca, I'll potentially try and VC Petracca into Miller instead, because Sydney Bulldogs will be a good game. I think the Bulldogs need to respond. McRae's likely to score well, but yeah, Petrarca's the one who's been scoring more
I
points.
know we talked about it in Supercoach, Clinton, but what would your line be for McRae as your VC? What would he need to score to lock him in?
For me, it's around the 120 mark. Around the 120.
In fantasy?
Yeah, around 120, because I've got a lot of trust in Miller. So, yeah, I think the way he's been playing, I do think he's untaggable. Now, I'm not sure if the ball will try to go to him or not, but I think it's mission impossible. Yeah, huge confidence in Miller. So, yeah, VC would have to score at least 120, I think.
My line for fantasy is usually slightly less than Supercoach. So usually if they're scoring around that 110 mark, I'm locking them in, like I did last week with Dunkley, which in the end probably cost me a few points, but I still like to have those locked in points. I don't like the risk of an injury really deteriorating my value there. For me, I'll be VCing Petrarca, and my captaincy option will be Lockie Neal. Like we mentioned, the looping option will be Dixon for me.
Yeah, I'm not. It's a complete guess if he's going to be coming back or not. But from what I'm seeing and hearing, I believe that he will be coming back into the team. So it's going to be make that VC option a bit tricky. But we'll see. We'll see tomorrow night, because as we record here Wednesday night, there's still a lot of team news to come out next 24 hours. There's whispers around a lot more COVID issues. So
yeah,
be prepared for that.
As we well know, there could be surprise COVID outs or surprise rookie outs. Players like Nash for West Coast potentially might get dropped. Yeah, it's going to be. We'll just have to wait for that team.
I doubt this week.
He played pretty well.
Yeah, I think their better players are coming back soon, but I still think, yeah, we're guessing.
My other alternative is I could VC Dunkley into Petrarca and Baldwin, who is very, very unlikely to play, and have that locked in looping option. That's my other option. So I get 2 cracks at it.
Yeah.
But again, I potentially I most likely want to trade Baldwin to Martin anyway. So
Yeah.
it's a double-edged sword. Yep,
Excellent.
that's all I've got for our AFL Fantasy Show. Clinton, did you have anything further to add before we wrap up?
No, I don't think so. Obviously, we actually got good traction on this video last week, Blake. So if you watch this, obviously you mentioned earlier, but please, to support us, all you need to do is press like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and then if you're listening to us, hopefully enjoy it. Feel free to send any questions through. Blake loves questions coming through. We can then put them up or talk about your questions next week. And yeah, we're off to a good start. So exciting part of the year. The trading season is well and truly on. And as I said recently, the games are enjoyable, so it's good to watch. So hope you're enjoying what we do here, and join us on Patreon, and then you can join our Discord chats, and that's where we're really trying to grow our community, Blake.
No, well said, Clinton. Thanks for joining us for our round 2 review and round 3 preview show. So good luck for round 3, Clinton.
See you, Blake.